Hi everybody, I'm Karl Wells. Today we're offering you part 2 of Jennifer Guy's interview with me about my new memoir, Openly Karl. Here it is.
Well, thank you, Karl, for allowing me to continue our conversation in light of your book, Openly Karl, which is a wonderful testimony to your life up to 27 and to 2010 when you married Larry.
Yeah.
And so our conversation is confined to that period largely. But we've covered your childhood, your time at school, which was, except for art class, horrific. And then your time with CBC and your other wonderful career gains and how much you appreciate and love your audience. And so now we're going to talk about something that I was surprised to read, that you also suffer from obsessive compulsive disorder.
Yes.
I love how you described it. It's an unreasonable cognitive shit show. That's what Karl calls OCD. Can you explain briefly what OCD is to our audience?
Well, people have mild cases of OCD where, you feel like you have to go back and check the iron a couple of times to make sure it's turned off. But mine was considerably worse than that. And mine also manifested in unwanted thoughts, intrusive thoughts, things that my brain was generating that I, had no control over. Mm-hmm. And I would have these terrible thoughts that I was going to do. For example, I could be sitting here and a thought would come into my head. I'm going to lean over and I'm going to slap Jennifer in the face, mm-hmm. Right out here on live TV, that kind of a thing. And I knew I wouldn't do it, but the thought was implanted in my head, and it wouldn't go away. It would recur and recur and recur. And it was almost like there would be a voice saying, "You're going to do it. You're going to do it. You're going to," Or it could be something like self-harm. I'd be on a balcony, on a high-rise, and a voice would come into my head and say, "You're going to jump. Jump off that balcony, jump." It would put me in a panic. And but it started happening when I was at work, and I would be on the air doing the weather, and this voice would come into my head, and the voice would be, "You're going to look at that camera and say to all those people, you're all a bunch of blankety blank," some foul, obscene word. And it would just, grip me while I was live on camera. And I knew I wasn't going to do it. Again, I knew I wasn't going to do it. And I would struggle against it, hoping, that it would go away. And don't forget, when you're doing the weather, as you know, you have to remember all of this information about where this low pressure system is going to go and where this high is going to move out and what this temperature is going to be and that temperature. So I'm juggling all of this in my head, and at the same time, these thoughts are popping into my head, that I'm going to say something, swear at the audience or do something obscene, haul down my pants in front of the camera. And so, I had to go ahead and do the weather under those conditions, and it was as I say, it's like a shit show. in your head.
And you had already been through a hard period in your life where you had to keep homosexuality a secret because of jeopardizing your position at work. Now you had OCD, which could equally impact.
I wasn't keeping it a secret at work. I just wasn't talking about
Right,
it
right.
at work.
Acknowledge.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Nor were you talking about OCD.
No, oh
Yeah.
God, no, because that was, I couldn't talk about OCD at work because they'd think, you know, well, he obviously has mental illness and we can't have him on television. There's no telling what he'll do, you know, because people are ignorant, you know, they don't realize.
So is that why you didn't go into treatment immediately?
Yes, that was part of it, but also I didn't want anybody to. I mean, this was so many years ago now. I didn't want anybody to possibly see me going into a psychiatrist's office, you know, who recognized me, which they would. You know, everybody in the province knew my face. And then for a rumor to go around that, you know, I was being treated for some kind of mental illness. And, you know, I just thought it would jeopardize my career.
But finally you did seek treatment, enter Dr. Lydia Hatcher.
I sought treatment when I reached the lowest point. And the lowest point was when I thought my life is not worth living. I would sooner be dead. That's when I sought treatment. I was at rock bottom, and I went to my GP, and she was very, you know, happy and cheerful when she saw me and said, "What can I do for you today?" And I sat down in the corner and I just unburdened myself. And I was crying and crying. And by the end of it, she was crying. We were both crying. And she said, "We're going to get you help." And so eventually we found a medication and a dosage that worked. Thank God, because I was lucky that way too. This medication doesn't work for everybody, but it worked for me. And thank God, thank God, thank God, thank God, thank God.
There's also a part of OCD that makes you...
This is a lifetime thing now. I have to be on it for the rest of my life.
Yes.
Because if I don't take it, I will go back
Yes.
to having those thoughts.
And it's obviously working with a comfort.
Yes. Yeah.
But there's also, from what I understand, an aspect of OCD which makes you methodical and meticulous. So that has been a part of your success in your career, is your attention to detail. But my question to you is, has this OCD been like a double-edged sword, a real problem for you, but also a benefit in how it makes you think in some arenas?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, you're right about me being methodical and all of that, but I have no idea whether that's connected to OCD. Mm-hmm. I've never thought of it being that way, but I suppose it's possible. Yeah, I suppose it's possible.
Well, I guess the good part of all that is behind you and it's managed. But
yes.
What a major issue in your life.
Yes, and I would urge anybody out there to, you know, nobody's going to judge you. Go seek help, because
and you did.
There's lots of people. There's lots of us out there. There are lots of people with, you know, who have obsessive compulsive disorder.
Now, I would like to switch now, Karl, to talk about your family, your friends, and your influencers. I know you were very fond of Gordon Pinsent, who played a big influencing role when you were younger in your early stage, and you loved Dr. Kildare on TV. And Sir Michael Redgrave gave you a big wink. I mean, you've had wonderful exposure to people who've really helped you be inspired on your path.
Yeah. You know, well, as far as Richard Chamberlain and Gordon Pinsent were concerned, I was attracted to them because they were beautiful-looking men. You know, I imagined myself in a romantic relationship with Richard Chamberlain. You know,
you're not the only one, I'm sure.
Yeah, and Gordon Pinsent too. But I was lucky enough to get to work with Gordon eventually, in a musical in which I had a small part, music man, and that was wonderful. Yeah, the Sir Michael Redgrave story I tell in the book, I thought about not telling it. I have been lucky enough to meet some celebrities in my life, some big name stars, but I didn't want to make it seem like I was bragging. Oh, I met this one and I met that one, but the Michael Redgrave story was kind of cute, and it related to me being gay. I went to interview him at the Battery Hotel where he was staying, and they were here, a bunch of a troupe of UK actors were here doing a Shakespearean performance at the Arts and Culture Centre. And John O'Mara, who was producing Weekend AM, and I was the first host of Weekend AM, we started that show together. He had sent me up to get an interview with Sir Michael Redgrave. He didn't think I'd get it because Redgrave had been in Toronto and Peter Zosky had interviewed him, and Peter Zosky afterwards said, "I'm never going to interview that man again. He's a horrible individual and a horrible interview, nasty, and I never want to see him again." So they didn't think I was going to get the interview.
Yeah.
But I did get an interview. I asked his assistant, and his assistant went over, and Sir Michael looked at me and smiled and, invited me over. I sat down and I interviewed him for a long, long time. And then, as we got into the interview, I realized, oh my God, this guy is attracted to me. He's like giving me the eye, right? He had a real twinkle in his eye, and my gaydar, as they call it, was pretty much fully developed by this time.
Yes.
And I realized this guy is attracted to me. He's coming on to me, right? And I was 21, and he was probably 70 at the time. And so anyway, I thought, I'm going to have to extricate myself from this situation.
And you got the interview.
As politely as I can, but I got the interview, and everybody was shocked when I went back to the station with my tape.
I'd like to talk now about probably, and I'm sure I'm correct, the three most important people in your life, and that's your mother, your father, and Larry. Mm-hmm. I'll start with your mother. You described her in the book as your biggest fan. She was so proud of you.
Oh, she was. Oh my God, yeah. Everywhere she went, she said, I'm the weatherman's mother. And she loved it when people, of course, told her, oh, I love your son, and I watch him every night. And I was happy that I could give her that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And she gave you more than that. You say she was mimicking. She was in the theatre side of you. She did a lot of mimicking.
Yeah, she was a great mimic. She would mimic, ladies she met at church, and she would mimic Jackie Gleason.
Yeah.
Everybody, and relatives. She'd do relatives, and.
So you picked up a bit of that.
I guess that I mean, she definitely had the performance gene, and a wonderful dancer, wonderful singer, and she could even she died with Alzheimer's, but almost right up until the end, she could remember the lyrics to every song she ever learned in her life.
But your account of her passing is it's very moving. I'll share it with our viewers. As you mentioned, she passed away from Alzheimer's. But on her final day, you and Larry went back to the hospital to see her for a second time. Karl writes, Mom was lying on the bed as we'd left her, wearing a simple hospital smock with bed sheets drawn up to just below her neck. She remained wide-eyed, staring upward. Her hair, once a prominent and attractive feature of her appearance, was now a sparse, delicate grey fringe framing her thin but mostly unlined face. Mom was breathing in and out through her mouth very deliberately. Each time she exhaled, her cheeks filled like balloons as she blew the air out. I held her hand, you write, and thought about the past, the happy past, all our joking and joyous laughter, our trips to Baring Park, to downtown and lunches at Marty's, the sweet shop and Woolworths. I thought too about the nearly 3 decades she'd spent raising us, the time she spent cooking and baking, cleaning, ironing and sewing. She had given so much of herself to Betty, Lynn, Len and me. I told Mom how much I loved her. And then further on this page, she starts to actually pass away. And Larry says to you, she's dying now. Talk to her. Holding my mother's hand, you write, and leaning in, I softly spoke into her ear and said, "It's okay, Mom. Don't be afraid. You're going to be with Dad and your mom and Dad and all your brothers and sisters. And we love you very much, Mom. Don't be afraid. I love you, Mom." Then, for the first time in 2 years, my mother smiled. She drew her last breath and exhaled quietly. An unexpectedly fast yet very peaceful death. Larry hugged me tightly. We stood and looked at Mom's frail, now lifeless body. Just Mom and the two of us. As I looked, I thought, this was my mother, and I'm so grateful this woman gave birth to me, so grateful she raised me. We felt sorrow, but were happy that she was finally free, released from her cruelest phase of Alzheimer's. Our dear Mom is now in a much better place. Karl, that's just such a moving account of saying goodbye to someone who you love so much. But when I was reading it, I'm trying to talk again about serendipity in my mind and trying to weave your major life events together. When your father died, it left your mother at the age of 58, a widow. And you had plans, which I'm sure if you pursued them, to go to the mainland and get higher up in CBC.
Yes.
But you said, someone has to stay and stay with my mother. And look at how your life has turned out to be here. But had you not stayed to be with her, and you had gone to Toronto, we would all be missing you. But it's sort of a serendipity. I mean, out of a horrible thing of your father passing came a positive thing.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, I haven't thought much about that, but you're right. If Mom had been well and if my father hadn't died in a terrible car crash, I probably would have ended up on the mainland. I probably would have, made a career up there. Certainly I was encouraged to go to Toronto by several people. But once that happened, when Dad left Mom and she was on her own, and he had done everything for her, she was really incapable of looking out for her own affairs at that stage.
Yes.
She needed somebody to support her. I just felt I had to stay, and I have no regrets. I'm glad I did.
I want to talk about your father now, and if you can do it, I'd be grateful, because you talk about the Wells look. Your father had a look. What did the look mean, and can you do it?
The look is just, and and all his brothers had it.
Yeah.
He had a
What does
brother.
It mean, like, you're kidding, or that's silly, or what does it mean?
Well, it's just it's an intimidating kind of look, It's like, oh, I don't think I want to tangle with that person. His brother was a United Church minister, my Uncle Roland. He was the minister out in Brigus for years and years and years and years. And he had that look too. And
it's funny how things are genetic like that.
yeah, but he had the additional weight of the clerical collar.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah.
which made it even more imposing.
Yeah. I note in the book you say the only time your father was ever in a plane was in a coffin.
That's right.
And what a shock, that horrid accident.
Yeah.
He had a stroke and went into an intersection
Yeah.
in Florida.
Yeah. He was at an intersection in Fort Myers, Florida. They were on their way to, I think they were on their way to Disneyland or Disney World or whatever. And he just passed out and slumped over the wheel at an intersection, and the car started edging out.
Yeah.
And when my uncle realized, he was sitting next to Dad, realized what was happening, he tried to reach over and stop the car, but it was too late, and they were hit by a tractor trailer, and Dad was killed instantly. He was only 60.
Yes. I get the impression from looking at your mother and your father in the book that he was a little bit more distant to you than your mother. Am I right to think that? Or expressed his love differently?
Not distant. I wouldn't say distant, but he had a different way of showing his affection. He wasn't the kind of dad who took me out and we played games together, or he didn't take me to movies or anything like that. I spent my time with him when he was working in the store, and I would work in the store with him, and we'd have conversations, and he would teach me things and tell me things. And then I spent a lot of time delivering groceries with him, going to wholesalers and that sort of thing. And we were always talking, and he would taught me about politics and everything.
Speaking of talking and sharing your life with somebody, I'd like to talk about Larry. Mm-hmm. And you say, if you're very fortunate, an extraordinary person may enter your life at some point, a person with whom you connect on multiple levels. You may share a similar sense of humor, political views, artistic sensibility, etc., and that person will become a friend like no other. They will lift you up, enable you to see beyond the narrow confines of your life, and encourage you to be better. My husband, Larry, is such a friend. Mm. So I think for you guys it was love at first sight.
Well, it was love at first sight, yeah.
Yeah.
Back in 1980, and we've been together 46 years. And it's been a wonderful experience, and our love really has grown the longer we've been together, and we're, inseparable. We do everything together, go everywhere together. He's thinking something and thinking of something he's going to ask me, and I'll answer before he even, we're totally connected.
And he supports you enormously. He supported you especially through OCD.
He was a great support. He's been a great support through the dark periods of my life. The time I was being bullied at work, and also through the OCD period. Wouldn't have gotten through any of that without him and his support. So he's meant everything to me, and I've been there for him too.
Oh, I'm sure. Mm. What do you think it is that makes you have such a strong bond? It's almost exceptionally strong.
I suppose the fact that we both had to endure similar experiences in our lives. We're both gay. We were both terrified of what might happen to us, and both hoping that we'd find somebody we could share our lives with, and be in a solid monogamous relationship for a long time, and so that's worked out for both of us, and our meeting was thank God we met. I like to think it was meant to happen.
Your destiny. Mm. You said something beautiful, and when you count your wedding in the book, it's just at the very end of the book.
There's serendipity again. If I hadn't gone into that bar that night, I wouldn't have met him.
Yes. Serendipity has been very kind to you.
Yeah.
You said, what I feel and remember with that great clarity is being at the altar with Larry as we said our vows. It was those precious moments. placing rings on each other's fingers, our embrace, our kiss. And unlike the first time we kissed, almost 30 years before, this time it wasn't impulsive. It was expected and symbolic. A statement weighted with years of shared love and shared life. As our lips touched, gently, briefly, we acknowledged our survival as a gay couple despite daunting odds. We turned to face our guests for a moment. I couldn't take my eyes off Larry. Smiling the most ecstatic smile, he looked happier than I'd ever seen him before. My joy mirrored his. We stood delighted to let everyone share our happiness and pride. We two, deeply in love. We two who made it. What a delightful way to end your book. It's on such a positive note. And I'd like to conclude...
Wonderful memory.
Yes, I'm sure. We'll stay with you forever. My last question is, when someone has read this book and they read that last page and they've been through this journey with you, what do you want them to think or feel to take with them?
Well, I guess it depends on who is speaking. But if it's somebody in the LGBTQ community, I'd like them to take away, you know, or say, wow, that's what it was like for him and his generation.
Yes.
And that's, you know, what we don't have to worry about today.
Yes.
And for anybody else, I would just like them to say, that was worth reading. That was a worthwhile read.